I found out I was in a coma when I got to the hospital. The most horrible thing happened to me recently. If someone had told me that, I wouldn't have believed it. But it happened, as I'm about to tell you. My name is Stan, and not long ago, I found my own body. It was Halloween. Me and the guys, Max and Steven, decided to go out and celebrate the holiday because we could not steal cool candy, but also meet beautiful girls. I got dressed up as a smart scientist, got myself a crazy haircut, found fake thick glasses for my eyesight, a shirt and a white robe, pants and sneakers. Perfect. My friends were superheroes in plazas and tight tights. We wandered the streets. The whole town seemed to be awake at the time. Everyone was walking around. Lots of kids, all having fun and creepy at the same time. We were chatting about something when someone on a bicycle bumped into me. Before I knew it, I was under the pressure of a witch. Ouch! Are you crazy? Sorry. It's the bike. My chain fell off. I'm sorry, please. The girl in the guise of a witch helped me get up. She had a false big nose, a hat, an old dress, everything as it should be. Even a broomstick tied to a bicycle. Wow, you're a witch. Well, sort of. I'm a witch on the way to my sister's coven. So you didn't have to change your clothes? Max! Haha, I guess so. It's just that today all of our magical powers are doubly activated. Out of curiosity, I touched her nose and it fell off. I felt so uncomfortable. I apologized creepily, and then I wanted to pick it up quickly, and so did she. We bumped heads and her hat fell off, and then I saw her face without any accessories. Man, how beautiful she was. Just awesome. The guys figured it out, said they were going to find something to eat, and we stayed to chat some more. I asked where this coven was and offered to walk her since it was dangerous for her to ride her bike anyway. We chatted very nicely on the way and didn't even notice we were there. The coven there was fun and intimidating. We exchanged phone numbers and I promised that I would call her tomorrow. You'll pick up the phone tomorrow, right? Or is this some kind of devious witchy plan? Tomorrow we'll see. To guarantee that we would meet, I asked her to fix her bike, promising that I would be done within a day and return it. Emma agreed. We said goodbye and I went to the guys. Max had already called me on the way. He was saying on the phone that they were waiting for me at the diner to hurry up. Otherwise, they would eat my portion. I was hungry, so I decided to ride my bike. I gave the chain a little twist. The road was empty. There were no cars or people. So I planned to make it fast. But that wasn't the case. I was distracted by another message on the way, and a car jumped out unnoticed. The next thing I remember was a bright light, a knock, and someone screaming. When I opened my eyes, I imagined that I was about to suffer pain. There was pain, but it was bearable. I saw my room and realized I was in bed. The alarm clock had rung a long time ago. I was late for my first class. After a quick wash and dress, I went downstairs and saw that no one was home. That's weird. Has everyone left already? I even wanted to stay home, but then I remembered that Max and I needed to discuss last night. At this point, when I tried to remember what happened yesterday, I had a sharp headache. My eyes were blurred, and I staggered. All I could think about was the girl. Yes, that's right, I met. What's her name? Emma, right. Oh shit, I was supposed to fix her bike. Gotta hurry to school and then get on it, I said to myself and hurried off to school. On the way, I met our neighbour. He was driving his car right at me. I barely had time to bounce, and then I shouted to him, "Good morning, was it a rough night? Can't you see the road?" He ignored me, didn't even look in my direction. It was a shame. I pulled out my phone and dialed Max, but he didn't answer. I met my classmate outside of the school, said hello to her, asked how she was doing, but she just kept staring at her phone. Has everyone decided to ignore me today? Is this some kind of prank? What the hell is this? I asked loudly, but she still didn't say anything. Okay, we'll see what happens next, I said, and went inside. When I walked into the classroom, everyone was sitting as they were sitting. No one was even paying attention. I only saw Stephen. "Hey, brother, how are you?" I asked and gave him my hand. He looked like he was looking right through me. "Steve, what are you doing? It's really not funny anymore." "What the hell?" He just kept looking at my stomach area, and then he got a phone call from Max. "Yeah, bro, how's he doing? What's the news?" "Shit, sucks. I'll cover for you in class and come to see him." "Oh, who are you?" Yeah, it's okay. As long as Stan comes to his senses. Yeah, okay, bye. Stan who? Do you have another Stan? Why aren't you talking to me? Stephen, what's going on here anyway? Then the teacher came up to Stephen and asked how Stan was feeling. And Stephen told him that I was still in a coma. What the fuck is going on here? I'm actually here. Hey, I'm here. I yelled, and then the teacher walked right through me and I freaked out. I felt sick and ran out of the school onto the street. I started seeing things again, like headlights, a bump, and a sharp pain in my head. After a minute, I ran to the hospital and saw my whole family in the corridor, and with them was Max. I walked on and saw myself in a hospital bed. I was wrapped up in a bunch of wires. I was hooked up to a ventilator. My body was breathless and barely warm. Tears came to my eyes. But how could it be? I asked myself. I touched my arm and I was in pain again. At that moment, some kind of sensor beeped and my mother and the doctor came running into the room. It turned out that my body had somehow reacted to me. I touched it again, but the pain was so unbearable that I pulled my hand away again. The sensors beeped again. Then my phone rang and I realized that Max had it. And from the conversation, I realized it was Emma. I'm sorry to tell you this. Yeah, he was riding your bike and his chain come off and there was a car coming towards him. And anyway, he got hit. Now he's in a coma. Nothing's clear yet. The doctors say to wait. No, don't cry. It's not your fault. If you want to come. Man, that was awful. I promised her I would fix her bike, and it turns out that I'd ruined it, and myself too. I wanted to help myself, but I didn't know how. I spent more than a week there in the corridor with my family. I wandered back and forth, waiting for good news, but there was none. Emma and Max took turns visiting. Emma read me books in the evenings. It was beautiful. She was even more beautiful without makeup. Then she and Max decided to chat outside. Emma told me that she had read a lot of books in the meantime about comas and how to get a person out of them. She suggested all sorts of options, up to turning the machine off, but that was too risky. I wish I could feel what he was feeling. I could help him. But how? Don't laugh, I have an aunt. She's a real witch, a witch. She's helped a lot of people. I talked to her, and she said that if somehow she could feel his senses, it would serve as a guide, and she'll try to heal him with magic. I'm sorry, but Halloween is long gone. Why should we try it? Okay, as long as it doesn't hurt him. I'd just like to get a feel for it. And then it hit me. What if I'm a guide? When Emma came to the room, standing beside me, I grabbed my arm and then hers. We crouched in pain at the same time. She was getting scared. She was scared. I had to give her some kind of sign, and I started grabbing her hand. She felt. Yes! Emma shared this with Max, and he immediately went to get Emma's aunt. They escorted all of mine home. They locked themselves in the room and began the ritual. I grabbed myself with one hand and her aunt with the other. I started writhing in pain just like she was. The witch was reading something, candles were lit everywhere. Then she put something in my mouth, in my eyes, and began to read even more intensely. I couldn't take the pain anymore. 3, 2, 1, and boom. Darkness. I opened my eyes, but it was dark everywhere. And then I started coughing and threw up, when something was taken out of my mouth. I opened my eyes again and saw the dazed and frightened guys next to me. Oh shit, it worked, I said in a whisper, and Emma's aunt fainted. Anyway, I have no idea how it came out, and which of all this is my dream or hallucination, but it's been 3 months since. I'm back home and everything is fine with me. Only the occasional headache, but that will pass like the witch said. Emma and I started dating, but the three of us decided to keep quiet about this story. Tell me guys, did you like my story? Right?
Hi everyone, my name is Duke. Just recently, I literally back from the dead. You know, no one expected or believed, except for one person. Now I'll tell you who it is and how it all happened. I hope you enjoy my story, but first, I'm waiting for your likes, comments under the video at the end of viewing, and please do not forget to subscribe to the channel. I grew up in a rich family. I had everything that my age guys can only dream of. I got my first car worth an apartment, and that's not all. Yes, my parents are fabulously rich. They have several businesses, and they have 2 kids who are like me. Besides me, by the way, there is a daughter. My sister's name is Dakey. Do you want to know what it is? In short, she's a bitch. Dakey also loved not only expensive things, but also people. In short, She did not communicate with poor people. She was not the kind of friend who would comfort you when you were in a bad way or help you in a difficult moment. She did not show her emotions to anyone, but she did not perceive other people's emotions either. As for me, I was a little bit different. Yes, I was like a kinder side, more understanding, although I was also considered a star, and brash, and a bully. At least my friends liked me better, I knew that, than my friends' girlfriends. Our parents are very busy people. They are almost never in our mansion. Fortunately, we have a lot of servants, and we do not do any chores around the house at all. Our mother owned a whole chain of luxury clothing stores, and she constantly flew somewhere to bring clothes from abroad. My mother wasn't very sentimental either, but my sister took after her, and I, as you may have guessed, look more like my father. Funny and interesting, but the men in our house have a bigger heart than the women's have. When I was a child, someone hurt my sister or me. We ran to my mother to complain, and I got even more from her for allowing such an attitude to myself, and another slap for not being able to solve the problem on my own. It was pretty cruel, but we quickly learned not to tell her anything else, not to complain, and generally to pretend that nothing was happening. But with Dad, it was completely different. Dad felt sorry for us, he kissed Dakey, and hugged me. Dad knew how to choose the right words and support in a real fatherly way. In general, we had enough love, so we grew up until we were all grown up. So one day, I came home drunk enough, I just felt bad. To be honest, I could barely stand on my feet and miraculously got home by car. As soon as I fell into the room and lay down on the bed, my sister called me. For some reason, she was crying and asking for help. I immediately seemed to sober up. I was afraid for her. She asked me to come, and of course, I left immediately. I don't remember exactly how fast I was going, but I was going fast. I remember how I almost got there, how I picked up the phone to check the address with the neighbors. As soon as I unlocked my phone, I saw that some guys and Dickie were standing by the road. She was crying. Out of anger, I wanted to run over them. I drove even more, and lost control. The car overturned and crashed into a tree. I remember opening my eyes, hearing my sister's voice calling for help, and then I had a dream. I dreamed a lot of things, including the moment of the accident. I was trying to avenge my sister. Dickie was crying all the time. I could clearly hear her voice in my sleep. She was asking for forgiveness, and it was so sad. I heard my father's voice, my friend's voice, and then I heard my mother come to me. I also thought that the pancake is going to hit me even more. And the most amazing thing is that I heard her crying. Can you imagine how surprised I was when I first heard her cry? I was used to the fact that my mother's reputation as an iron lady, and it was like this at work, stone as a rock. I heard it many times, and then thought I heard strange voices. I didn't know them. I didn't really understand the speech of strangers, but I still had a dream. It was so long. And then one day, when I'd had a good sleep, I heard my mother crying again, and she was crying as hard as she'd ever cried before. She asked me to come home. I was surprised, because did I sleep somewhere outside the house? I opened my eyes, saw a bright light, and my eyes hurt. I wanted to ask them to close the windows, but I suddenly realized that I couldn't speak because I had something in my mouth. I took a deep breath through my nose and started coughing. At this moment, my mother screamed like a madman. She flew up to me and started shouting my name, then she ran around the room and shouted someone's last name. Immediately a man came running. He pulled all the excess out of my mouth, believed the vital signs, shone flashlights in my eyes, felt my hands, and asked me to tell my name. I answered all the questions and then asked what was going on. My mother came up to me again, and I saw a very old woman instead. Her hair was almost gray, bags under her eyes. She had lost so much weight. I said, "Mom," and she rushed back to me. She was crying and happy, and I couldn't understand what was going on. Finally, after some time, a stranger came up to me again, and he told me that I had an accident while driving for my sister. I lost control of the car and it rolled over. I ended up with a head injury and went into a coma. "You were in a coma for 10 years, the doctor said. The words hit me like an arrow, and I was scared and panicked. I was in a coma? Why 10 years? Have I lost so much time? I asked myself. I was released from the hospital not immediately, only a week later. The news about me spread around the city, but my mother decided not to accept anyone from the guests yet. I saw my father. My sister begged for forgiveness. As it turned out, I had not dreamed it before. I heard it all. I calmed her down because I really didn't hold a grudge against her. A couple of days later, we went out for a walk and talked about a lot. I noticed that it wasn't just my mother who had changed. Dickie also became more human and sentimental. She told me that on the day I woke up, the doctors had already suggested that my mother turn off the machine that I was using to breathe because I couldn't do it on my own. Parents' permission was required. My father was ready to sign the paper because he couldn't torment me anymore, but my mother, she didn't agree. She believed in me and shouted that even if I lay in this state for another 30 years, she would agree. Just then, I opened my eyes. You know, it was a real miracle. There are probably 1 in a million cases like me. Despite the fact that I missed so much in life, I now have the opportunity to make up for everything. Plus, the whole situation is that I got to know my mother and sister from the other side, and my mother's love and faith in me did not allow me to die. And this is magical.